That's correct.
Raven Raven has informed us that it is actually him who's the secret communist, guys. It's
Okay.
Jover.
Tim.
It's so
Okay,
Jover.
well, um, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. It is a pleasure to be able to host, well, semi-host this evening, for our second official RHS meeting in Astoria. It's a pleasure to have this organization here within the nation, because it truly does take a stance for something important. Um, I have been super swamped in real life, so I'm extremely grateful that Wyatt was able to prepare something this week. I will be officially hosting next week, and well, I think from what I've been hearing this past week, he's been working on something quite impactful. Right? There's a lot of literature going around, and well, he's taken a lot of time to combat some Zeros literature this past week. So, without further ado, I'd like to invite him on the pulpit. And,
Yeah.
please give him his full attention.
Here's your diamonds back, Tyler. But yeah. So for pretty much uh, as long as the library in New Helos has existed, the Netzlist guide that I was given, I think either back in March or April, by the Lyriniscovans has been like sitting in there. Uh, Obviously, by me being part of a anti-Zerist organization, I don't particularly like Netzlism. Uh, but after the RHS meeting last week, they, or the leader of Lir Niskova next door, Ari Netzel, came by and dropped off the updated version of their manifesto. So, uh, I read through it. It's like 45 pages long. Brought up some interesting points, and I was considering writing something kind of to give my takes on it. Uh, but I wasn't that motivated to do it until one of the Lyriniscovans said that the RHS is a Nazi organization and that collectively everyone in it are a bunch of Nazis. Um, I hope you guys know that me and Baptist are not Nazis. Um, we and I think it's really funny that they think that the RHS is a Nazi organization because last week they rejected someone's membership because they were a member of the Abexilus like fascist front or whatever it's called. Um, and they literally argue for representative government. But either way, beyond all the Nazi shit, being called a Nazi motivated me to actually write something refuting Netzlism, and that's actually what this book on the podium is.
Can I say something, please?
Uh, sure, I guess.
So, the reason why he called you a Nazi is like, if hopefully you know some history, that the opposite of a communist is a Nazi.
Yeah,
So these guys
but
are
you
basically.
but you can be
Wait,
opposed
let
to
me.
communism without being a Nazi. They're just calling us a Nazi
Well,
because
saying a Nazi in Stalin's time in the Soviet Union was basically going to the Gulag. Hopefully, you could understand what I'm saying.
But that's not accurate. If I
yeah,
could butt in, that's not accurate
but
because
we're not.
because Nazi literally means National Socialist.
Well, okay. Besides the arguments over
So,
whether Nazism was socialist,
we're going a bit out
either
of
way,
it.
the RHS isn't a Nazi organization. So, them calling us Nazis in the global chat, by the way, in front of the entire world,
Yeah,
is just spreading lies about us. And
I
I
say we
think,
kill them.
well, hold
No,
up.
stop.
I'm just going to read the at least a few sections of the book I wrote. Uh, Or would you guys like me to read the entire thing? Because I don't know how long you want to be here.
Hey man, I already got my food cooking.
The Google Doc's like 5 pages.
That's good enough, bro. Go for it.
All right.
Give it
So the preface, which is like 2.5 pages long, is pretty much just explaining all the context I already gave at the start of my speech. So we'll move on to page 6, the politics of Netzlism. The Netzlist second edition repeatedly exclaims that Netzlists are completely against the use of violence to achieve the workers' utopia, unlike other mainline Zerist ideologies. But this is a lie. On page 9, they explicitly state that they disavow the use of revolution to instill Netzlism. This denouncement of violence, however, is only in name. This is because on page 22, they state, quote, revolution may still be required in the most reactionary of states. Netzlists do not disavow mainline Zerists using violence to achieve political power, and in fact they state it as a necessity in countries where Netzlism can't take root. Not only do Netzlists not decry the use of violence by Zerists, they explicitly wish to ally with them. On page 10, the book outlines the tenet of partial vanguardism, the idea that all Zerist organizations should unite in a coalition to stamp out, quote, an organized reactionary force. If an ideology claims to denounce violence, but refuses to disavow the violence done by their ideological cousins, and attempts to ally with them, then that ideology does not actually denounce violence. I guess I'm echoing in someone's mic. Fun. Another core element Netzlists claim to uphold is the democratic that's a grammar mistake, is democratic processes. However, here too they lie. In the second edition of their guide, the Netzlists do not explicitly say that they ban political opposition, but one must only look to both their old guide and their current actions to see the truth. In the first edition, entitled Netzlist Guide, Ari explicitly states that monarchist parties are banned. I also directly asked in the Discord of Lirnaskova, the nation in which Netzlism was founded, how to form a new political party, because all of their current parties range from Netzlist to hardline Zerist. The speaker, which is the presiding officer over Lirnaskova's legislature, Munn Federson, told me, it can't be capitalist. The banning of political opposition is not only something that is done behind closed doors, but rather something they are openly proud of. When I spoke to, I think this is how you pronounce their name, Cassie Arochelle? I apologize if I butchered her name. Anyways, Cassie is a member of their government, and she told me bluntly, yeah, we don't let people erode our democratic institutions through capitalism. This is the same person who called me a Nazi, by the way. Looking back to their old guide, on page 6, Ari wrote, should the workers feel that they are not being represented by the Netzlist cause anymore, they may vote to abdicate it. But how do their people vote to abdicate socialism? Their only options are socialist parties, and if you can only vote for socialists, then you can never actually vote out socialism. This means the people under Netzlism do not actually get a choice. Now you could try to argue that since the second edition doesn't explicitly say that they will let the workers vote out socialism, they are not actually bound to give that ideology, as maybe they have changed their stance between the writing of both editions. However, if a country claims to be a democracy that gives people more freedom, they must give people the right to vote against what the rulers perceive as the people's best interests. This means that even if the Netzlist guide no longer states the people have a choice to vote out socialism, Netzlists should still allow for this choice in order to live up to their claims of being democratic Zerism. That's the politics section. So did anyone want to add something? I know I've been talking for a long time.
You got the pulpit. Go as long as you'd like.
All right, next section, economics of Netzlism. Netzlists claim that they seek a better system for the hard-working laborer, but this is just Zerist propaganda. On page 5 of the second edition, Ari states that Netzlists, quote, seek to reform the capitalist exploitative economy into one that truly rewards hard work. Do Netzlists actually pursue this goal? One only needs to look to page 14 to find their answer. Ari describes the use of the Ortangon, I think that's how you pronounce it, market model in Lirniskova. This entails the state owning the, quote, means of production and making the citizens work in state-run industries. If the output of a the output of a worker is then sold to a, quote, commissariat at artificially low prices. Why is the fruits of the worker's labor forcibly given to the state? Because then the state can export it abroad, make a hefty profit, and, quote, undercut capitalist competition. This system means that the workers who earn the money from the things that they produce are not given all of the money that they have earned. If the workers are not given all the money that they have earned, then the economic system does not actually lead to a more fair society for the worker. Netzlists argue that the taking of a worker's output so that the state can profit is actually beneficial to the worker, as they are given a, quote, stable income. Although it's technically true that a worker can benefit from a stable income in this system, a capitalist system can provide more benefits to the worker. For example, in Lirniskova, fuck, my throat's getting dry. In Lirniskova's neighbor, Astoria, the government provides cactus farms for the people to use, just as Lirniskova does. However, whereas Lirniskova forces its citizens to sell them as Whereas Lirniskova forces its citizens to sell them the XP generated at artificially low prices so that the government can profit, Astoria matches the prices offered at Toolshop, which to my knowledge has the highest prices for like XP. If you bring me a shop that will buy XP for more, I'll gladly match that price. Anyways, Astoria matches the prices offered at Toolshop and at best breaks even. Astoria's capitalist system lets the worker keep all of the money that they earn from their work. If citizens in a capitalist economy can keep all of the money they earn, they can spend it on things that actually matter to them, like armor, tools, and even the creation of new businesses to earn them and their fellow citizens more money. This leads to the citizens of capitalist nations to be wealthier. If a system leads to wealthier citizens and lets them keep what they earn, then it is superior to a system that takes away what a person earns for the same benefits. Some Netzlists may say that it is necessary for the government to take away the earnings of the worker to provide services to the people, and this collectively Oh, whoa. Ah, man. I forgot to copy and paste that page. Hold up, let me pull the Google Doc. Okay. Where were we? Some Netzlists may say it's necessary for the government to take away the earnings of the worker to provide services to the people. And this redistribution of an individual's earnings into public spending means that they are still getting the benefits from their earnings. This first point is false, as in a capitalist system, the people can willingly give their money to the state in order to fund it. Astoria's citizens have collectively earned and donated millions to the state, and this allows the state to conduct normal functions, such as funding ice highways, cactus farms, and the military, all without taking away anyone's earnings. If an economic system can produce the same outcome while not taking away the workers' earnings, then it's a superior system. The second point, while seemingly holding water, is actually false. the earnings of a laborer are theirs to do with as they please, and they are the one, or as they are the ones who earn the money. If someone were to take away money that a worker was planning on buying bread with, and instead built a water fountain, the worker technically got value for their earnings because they can use the water fountain, but they didn't get what they truly wanted. It's therefore immoral to take away the earnings of a laborer to fund public works, because it may not be the desire of the laborer to use their earnings in this way. Additionally, in the bread-water fountain analogy, the earnings of the hard-working laborer are spent on things that someone who did no work can benefit from. Zoroastrians often argue that it's wrong for someone to reap the benefits of another person's work. However, they advocate that the workers' money should be used to fund things the non-workers can still enjoy. If a system takes away someone's money and potentially uses it against their wishes, and uses it in a way that people who did no work can benefit from, then it is immoral. Lastly, Netzlists also proclaim early into the second edition that they wish to, quote, reward community, not greed. This is, as so many of their proclamations are, just a lofty goal and not actual reality. Upon clicking on the dynamap of Lyr and viewing the balances of the first 20 people in the claim, one finds that Lyr citizens do not share the same amount of wealth. Evalonist, I think that's how you say their name, who is a member of Lyr government, and Polysanity, which is the in-game name for Ari, have balances of roughly 17,000 and 50,000 respectively. In contrast, a citizen like Unknown Anomaly had a mere 575. SK42 had about 2,000. OO Licks, yeah, I'm butchering their name, had 2,500. Evidently, Netzlists are perfectly fine with what they call quote-unquote hoarding, as long as there is a clear upper and lower class within Netzlist society. That was the economics. Like I said, I talked for a long time. Anyone want to add anything?
I have nothing to add.
Raven said, "Don't check his citizens' balances." Last time we posted a video, the Netzlists actually watched the video of the RHS meeting, so they're probably gonna point out I have like 1.8 million bucks in my balance. And I want to clarify that that's because I have the national budget on me. Like, that's the money the nation has. That's the money getting spent on the cactus farm. Or at least being saved so that we'll be able to spend it on things later. And all of that money did not come from forcing people to give it to us. All of that money came from people willingly donating it. Mainly Baptist here, so thank you, Baptist.
Hoorah, Astoria.
Anyways, the next section is entitled Netzlism in the Real World, which is just a rewriting of what they called practical Netzlism. The practical Netzlism section of the second edition begins with Ari asserting that every nation actually starts out as a Zerust nation. However, he is incorrect. Ari comes to this conclusion because he views the sharing of resources done by fledgling civilizations as Zerust economic activities, what he deems as proto-Zerism. However, this is not actually an example of Zerust economics. Zerust economics is predicated on the state taking away wealth from its producers in order to redistribute it, such as with the Ortangon market model. New nations instead see the willing cooperation and sharing of resources between members, which is an example of capitalism. This is because capitalism is the willing and free trade of goods and services between individuals. Economic activity often takes the form of bartering or sharing in early game nations, which are willing exchanges of goods and services, and is therefore capitalistic. It is only natural, then, that as more money enters the economy and more sophisticated goods and services are created/needed, the economy moves towards a more typical mental image of a capitalist economy. However, Ari disagrees. On page 31, he states that the move to a capitalist economic model is caused by a, quote, egotistical force, not something that happens naturally. What does Ari mean by this? This claim is based off the idea that zeroism is the natural endpoint of a society, and assuming bartering and sharing of resources are inherently zeroist, the move towards capitalism is thus unnatural and caused by selfish individuals. Regardless of whether bartering and sharing are zeroist, the claim that a move to zeroism is natural is contradicted in the next sentence. Ari states that fledgling nations are the perfect target for Netzlists to, quote, step in. The Netzlists will intervene to teach a nation to follow zeroism. And if an outside force must step in to teach a system, that system isn't natural. In conclusion, the Netzlist second edition is just propaganda. From the lies over giving people political choices, to the lie of giving the worker a fairer outcome, to the interrupting of the natural progression of a society towards capitalism, the Netzlist movement relies on giving the people a false promise of utopia, only to bring dystopia. In the Hurdles for Netzlism section of the book, they detail the only ways to stop the spread of this ideology. Governments that are strong and willful enough to shut the door on Netzlists as soon as they knock, and an educated voting populace that is weary of their false promises. With this refutation, I hope you have learned the truth behind the mask Netzlists parade around in, and arguments you can use to keep your fellow citizens free from Netzlist influence. That's it. I'm just gonna flip to the front. And I'm realizing that every single time I turn the page, it flips the trapdoor beneath me.
Yeah.
Alright, well, anyone have any questions? Thoughts, comments?
How are you so awesome?
Thanks. It just comes naturally.
No way.
My mother did backflips off the Grand Canyon.
No flipping way. That's really awesome. Take my chest, please.
I think I'll be okay, Tyler.
Yeah,
Did
no,
you
it
want
doesn't
to say
matter.
something?
It's not like due to ability anyway.
Yeah, I was just gonna give some closing remarks if you're done.
Yeah, sure. Just give me 1 second.
Thank you, Wyatt, for giving us the refutation of the Netzlist guide. Although that was 5 pages, I'm sure in the future we're going to be expanding upon this refutation with other exposés. I myself, I'm going to be working on a classical liberal guide explaining what the political thought is and how it could be applied within stoneworks, and why it will be of beneficial. Why it will be of benefit to many nations, culturally and economically, and intellectually as well, as it has a moral superiority. Communism does not. And if you do not know what classical liberalism is, I will explain it in our next meeting. I will go into how this is one of the founding principles, founding philosophies of the Ronan Haagenson Society. Free markets, deregulation, civil liberties. That being said, I just want to thank you all for coming again. Before we close, do we have any pending questions? Okay, well, without further ado, you're all dismissed. Thank you for coming.